Hey guys, so we are a family of 6. We have 4 boys that are 10, 7, 5, and 3, and we found the Axial SCX24 micro crawlers. We travel full-time on the road, so we wanted a nice RC car for the boys, but we also wanted something small that they could play with both inside the tent, in the RV, or out and about. And so the SCX24 is perfect. However, because they're boys and also because it's a known issue, the motor burns out often. So I'm talking about this. It's the 88T motor. They're super cheap, so I'm not concerned about that. But I have learned how to change these, so I figured I'd throw a video out there for a bunch of you guys that are a little deterred by having to change the motor. It's actually pretty easy, and I do it a little bit different than the official way, and we've had no adverse effects, no damage, no nothing. So because I change them so often, I normally keep a extra 1 to 2 motors per truck on hand because we travel, and sometimes we don't get packages for 2, 3, 4, or 5 months. So I'll try to keep a couple extra spares of everything. I have extra shocks, I have extra screws, extra body clips. I have 2 extra motors per truck, and I have 1 extra servo for the steering per truck. And that's just because we travel and our boys like to run their toys hard. So here we go. But first and foremost, iFixit kit. I bought the big one. This thing is a life changer. I've got every single bit I need, as well as all the little tiny tools that you might need. I understand that this is for electronics, but it works perfectly on this crawler. Now, if you see on here, there's grids in here. I use these to keep track of my screws and where they go. And so that helps me when I was first taking them apart to remember exactly which screw goes in which hole, because you don't want to put the wrong size screw in a hole because you can mess things up very quickly. So let's get into it. First thing I like to do is I'll pull the 2 body clips off of the hood, put them in a thing, and the next thing that I want to do is I want to remove the rest of the body. So while I could take it off here, what I prefer to do is open it up and take these little tiny screws right here at the end of the frame rails, the very end of the frame rails in the rear. And I take these out, partially because there's a second pin and it still kind of holds the body in place for me. And the screwdriver is magnetic because these little screws are super tiny. That's super nice. So it's actually still sitting here, although it's taken off. You just slight pressure and it releases that extra pin. And see right here, there's an extra pin right here. So that's what holds the body, and I just set the body off to the side for now. Then the next thing that I do is I take the battery out, because nobody wants to get shocked. So I'll take the battery and I'll set it with the body. Now here's the motor. What they normally want you to do is take all of this stuff apart. I don't actually do that. I just take the cradle apart. I take the battery cradle out, which is these 4 screws right here, 2 on each side. I keep track of these 4 screws separate. Now these go into a separate grid. Now I know some of you guys who are more experienced than me are going to say, hey, those body screws and these cradle screws are the same size. Yes, but I like to be organized. So they are the same size. You can interchange them, but what you want to do is, especially the first time, you want to make sure that you keep track of the screws and where they go. So the cradle comes out. What I like to do is I like to put the cradle with the screws. Now, what you need to do is you need to get this motor plate off. So there's 2 screws, and it is right here. You got to get the transfer case cover, is I believe what this is officially called. And so these screws are different. So these screws you definitely need to keep track of, because you don't want to screw through the transfer case cover. So keep track of these. You can reach both of them with a straight one so far. So the next thing that I do is I loosen the ECU screw. I take this out, and that's so I can twist the chassis just a little bit. And by me able to twist the chassis just a little bit, it allows me access. See, I can twist the chassis just a little bit. It gives me enough to get the transfer case cover off. Once you get the cover off, I put the cover with the screws. Now there are 2 bolts right here, or screws here, one here and one there. Hey guys, so sorry I didn't tell you which 2 sizes you needed. So it is a 0.05 inch and it is a 1/16 inch. Those are the 2 that work. If you have bits that are that, it makes it easier. But for the next piece, to take the actual motor bolts out, I use one of these, and it's got the ball end on it. And so I use that to snake through. Because the ball end might actually click in, and then I can unscrew these without taking anything further out. Now these screws here that hold the motor in, I put down here because the motor comes with new screws, and I actually use the new screws. The next thing that I do, because I can reach that one from the outside, this one I turn the tire, and I come in between the tire and the shock. I go just inside the shock, underneath the frame, and it clicks in just like that. And then I can spin this next one. Takes a little bit of lining up to do. If you had a longer one of these, it would be easier, but this is what I have. So, and then you just twist it. You give it a little bit of a twist, and then you just keep going, and it unscrews that bolt. This one does take a little bit longer because you're snaking your way in there. Like I said, if I had a super long one of these, it would be super quick, even quicker than this. But this is what I have, and I just keep rotating it until the motor comes off. If you don't have to bend the gear to get it out, it's even better. And so I just leave it sitting there because it's clicked in, and I pull the motor out. And that's it. And you should be able to hear it's definitely a broken motor. This is a known issue. These things are real cheap. So now I'll open the new one. And I'll put the new motor back in. Make sure the 88T is to the outside of the frame rail. And it just screws right back in once you put the gear in the hole. Then you can screw this screw back in, or if it's come out, which it normally does, take those and set those there. I'll put that in my parts bin, and that's it. Then I run these two in, put it all back together, and that's the end of it. So I'll show you how that goes. Then I test it. So I always turn the truck on first. Then I turn on the controller. So then all I do is I check the steering. Still good with the servo. Forwards, backwards, forwards. Good to go. Motor's fixed. It's pretty easy, guys. It literally takes 10-15 minutes. I do it here on my steering wheel desk because we travel full time. But the motors are easy. They're super cheap. So I don't mind doing them. The more you do them, the faster you get. But the fun that the boys have is priceless, and it's worth it. And this is something that I can do with my boys. These crawlers are only like 140 bucks. And the replacement parts are cheap. And then you can do all the upgrades and stuff. So this is actually a clear body that we let the boys paint from the inside. They paint it from the inside, and it's a high gloss on the outside. So it looks super cool and nice and shiny. Like it has a nice clear coat body paint on it. So we love them. Look forward to some more full-length videos or shorts of our boys playing with crawlers. Thanks for watching. We're on to the next adventure.